You get to fly over the jungles and back to my hero complex. You get to save people.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have Case Visser with Samaritan Aviation. He's here to talk a little bit about what they're doing and share some of his story. So, Case, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Eldon.
Yeah, good to have you. Before we get started, I actually have a little something for you, a little gift. So we're starting to give some gifts here. So here's a little. I don't even know if you'll use it, but you can have it. Take a quick peek.
All right, let's see here. We've got Herman's Boy right here, local in Rockford. Formosa oolong tea. My wife's gonna love that.
I thought maybe, and I don't know too many people that don't drink coffee.
Oh, Papua New Guinea Perosa. Yeah, Papua New Guinea. We had this stuff while we were over in Papua New Guinea.
I kind of figured, so they happen to have it at Herman's Boy. I was a little surprised. I asked if they had anything, but they have a lot of cool stuff there. So
there we go. Yeah, they grow a lot of coffee, especially up in the highlands where we used to serve.
Really? I didn't know there were highlands there.
Yeah, we serve down on the river.
Yeah.
Not a lot of coffee that I saw down in the river, but there are 14,000-foot mountain range through the middle of the country. Okay. And my understanding is that's where a lot of the coffee in Papua New Guinea is grown.
Very cool.
Interesting little tidbit on that one is where we were from in Papua New Guinea, the coffee you would drink was instant.
Okay.
They'd boil water. So you come over here and everybody gets you, Papua New Guinea, really good coffee.
Fancy stuff.
And I'm like, man, when I was there, we drink instant coffee.
Well, that's the kind of life of, missionary work. All right, so let's go back to, I guess, a little Case. I mean, you're a pretty tall guy. So where'd you grow up? Where are you from? What's your backstory?
Yeah, I'm West Michigan guy. So Marne, Michigan, Coopersville.
Oh, nice.
Went to Coopersville High School. And my parents and two sisters, we've been local for a long time. I worked with my dad in a heating and cooling business that he started, Visser Heating and Cooling, for 16 years. I was with him. So we did that for 16 years until God called my wife and I, our family, with our 4 kids, into missions aviation. Okay.
Now, 16, you don't look old enough to have had a career for 16 years. So, I guess tell us about what drew you into mission aviation.
Yeah, after doing heating and cooling for 16 years, I started hearing these stories about a need for people to fly airplanes in very remote parts of the world, where there was a lot of need, a lot of help that could be done by somebody that was capable, but more so willing to get the training, to get good at it and go over there and serve. So I signed up for the school that I went to as a student. I was a student at SMAT. They got a 1-year maintenance program and a 1-year pilot program. And in the process of taking the classes, getting educated to learn how to work on airplanes, fly airplanes, I was introduced to Samaritan Aviation, the organization that we eventually joined, and I flew air ambulances with in Papua New Guinea. So it was one step at a time. We never had the full picture laid out in front of us. But we just said, we're willing, and we started taking one step at a time. And the next thing you know, I'm flying ambulances on the rivers in Papua New Guinea.
That's pretty crazy. So I have a little insight to that because I went to a movie that I was invited to, which is kind of where we met. And it talked about what they do, and I was just shocked at some of the stuff that I saw there. I guess I'm going to tease that, though, before we get into that. Like, why did you even go into the aviation in general? Like, you left the heating and cooling not exciting enough, or just looking for a different adventure, or just kind of looking to do something different? What?
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up on motorcycles and snowmobiles and boats. If it burned gas, we liked to do it.
Yeah.
The way my dad was, and our heating and cooling company was mostly service driven.
Okay.
So working on stuff with my hands, fixing stuff. My favorite service calls we'd go on were the ones on nights and weekends. I got a little bit of a hero complex. Yeah. So I always liked going in and saving the day, even in the heating and cooling world.
Okay.
So to get to aviation, I was interested in becoming a pilot, and I'm a bit Dutch and cheap. So I'd do the math a bunch of times and just couldn't, for myself, justify the costs of going into aviation to, as we say, burn holes in the sky. Yeah. And there was no reason to get a plane for our small business. Yeah. So it was an interest I had for a while, but always just kind of set it aside saying, nah, that doesn't make sense. As we got further down the road, heard about how you can use aviation skills for helping people, for saving lives, for introducing them to the gospel, introducing them to Jesus. And there was not one time where I said, oh, the light went on, that's what God wants us to do. It was more just becoming aware of the need and saying, okay, we're willing to do that, and taking the next step to prepare yourself to fill that need.
Yeah. So the mechanic work was sort of the entry level into working on planes. And then now, is part of the mechanic training for a plane, is that, you have to learn to fly too? Or is that sort of like just a precursor to get around the planes and then you start taking the pilot lessons?
Yeah, so what's interesting is in the heating and cooling world, now you do have to fix things right, but there's a lot of room to figure out how you want to fix it. In aviation, you fix it how the airplane manufacturer tells you to fix it. So in aviation maintenance, there's a lot more that has to do with, yes, maybe diagnosing a problem, but you will find in the book how to do what you're supposed to do and follow it precisely. I'm not the greatest at that because of my heating and cooling background, but for missionary pilots, they will be a lot better pilot when they understand the systems that are inside the plane. So we will train them as mechanics so that they understand the system, so that when they're flying, when they're having a problem with one of the systems, they can almost picture that part in their head and make adjustments, change course, do what they have to do to still be safe. We train mechanics and pilots at the school. We have about 30 mechanics at any given point in our school, and we usually have about 6 pilots. So we actually train way more mechanics than pilots. You could say they're in higher demand.
Sure.
Being a pilot, there's that bit of a romantic. You get to fly over the jungles and back to my hero complex. You get to save people.
Sure.
Being a pilot. Being a mechanic, you're making that a possibility for the organization. You're the one making the airplane safe. So it's actually a higher demand field to be a mechanic. You just don't get the romantic part of flying.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So it does make a lot of sense, especially when after what I saw in the videos from Papua, is you're so far out. Like if it's just a mechanic, you're not like flying local 30 minutes to your next spot. It looks like that stuff's hundreds of miles away sometimes to the ambulance, or you're out in the middle of nowhere. That certainly makes sense on why you would want to know the systems. When I did go to your website, they had, I see you're looking for people, looking for more pilots, more mechanics, more of that at Samaritan.
Yeah, we really need pilots and mechanics. Pilot mechanics are what we historically hired. That was like me. I was both a pilot and a mechanic. We have 4 pilots in country that fly regularly for us right now. And we really could stand to hire 2 to 4 more as we're adding a base of operations. So the level of help, the level of assistance we're giving to the people of Papua New Guinea is going to go way up. We need the pilots to be able to fly those missions. In order to keep their airplanes safe, we actually need mechanics as well, so that the pilots aren't always doing all the mechanicking work when they're supposed to be out flying the airplane. So yeah, we need to hire mechanics. We need to hire pilots. We also have other positions available. We need a medical director at the second base. Okay. So somebody with medical expertise, they'll answer the cell phone and triage what's going on with the patient. And then they'll call us pilots. The pilots don't really know that much about medical. I mean, we learn a lot while you're driving an ambulance, but the medical director triages, tells us what to do. We go pick up the patient, bring them back to the hospital. So yeah, there's a lot of positions that if people want to work with Samaritan Aviation, it's a great way to use your life to help others, to glorify God. And there's a lot of different avenues of service with Samaritan Aviation.
It looked pretty amazing. If you're looking for adventure too, I don't think there's any lack of that based on what I saw. I'm sure there's plenty of boring times, but it looks like there's plenty of adventure.
Yeah, if anything, the problem is probably too much adventure. Yeah. We actually, you're flying an ambulance. So you see a lot of stuff I say people shouldn't have to see. Mm-hmm. Samaritan Aviation does a really good job of caring for our people, not just the pilots, the mechanics, the medical directors, but the families that go with as well. Mm-hmm. So we do stuff like every 6 months, they take a 2-week vacation, a 2-week break just to get away. We actually have a boat in our main base. We can go out in the ocean fishing. So a lot of Saturday mornings from, say, 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., a group of people will go out and catch some mackerel and some wahoo and just get it out on the ocean away from people where it's calm and decompress and relax. So a lot of it is trying to calm down and take a break from what we do over there. What we say with Samaritan Aviation is we want people that can thrive serving with us. We don't want them to just survive. We want them to thrive. So there's a lot of stuff we do to make sure our staff thrives in what they do.
So let's rewind again a little bit more. We got kind of in some details, but can you just explain the overall mission in a little bit more detail? Like, what's it look like? What's the mission? Like, if somebody were to start, say, as a pilot or whatever, what's that story look like?
Yeah, Samaritan Aviation operates in Papua New Guinea. That's just north of Australia, second largest island in the world. The people we serve live anywhere from 1 day to about 5 days from the only hospital in the region. If they're closer than that 1 day out, they can just take the road, so they don't need us. So we start at about 1 day out, and 1 day to 5 days, they would take a boat down a river. There's a 700-mile river, and they would have to take that boat down the river, sleep at night, and now travel another day. If you have a life-threatening situation, whether it's bit by a venomous snake, about 30% of the flights we do for the medical side are picking up pregnancy-related. So mothers that are hemorrhaging, they're continuing to bleed, or maybe they've been in labor for 2 days. So we will fly out, pick them up. It's usually about an hour or a 45-minute flight to get them back to the hospital where we can save their life. And then back at the hospital, we have a staff of nationals that go in every weekday, we say daily, just to make sure both their physical needs are being met. There's no nurse button at this hospital normally. So making sure their physical needs are being met as well, but also their spiritual needs. These people are, as we said, days from home, the people they know, and there's not people there to check on them, care for them. So our national staff goes in daily just to talk with them, pray with them, just to be a friend as they're going through something that's a very difficult situation. So yeah, our pilots do the flying, the mechanics keep the planes going. And that's the mission of what we do. The name is Samaritan Aviation. So that story Jesus tells in the New Testament of the Good Samaritan, if you're familiar with that one, we live out that story of the Good Samaritan. We just don't have a donkey. We have a 206 float plane.
Yes. So who's on the plane? Is it just you? Do you have like a medical tech? What's that look like? Just take us through, somebody has a medical emergency. How do they get a hold of you? And then walk us through that process.
Yeah, generally we're what we call single pilot operations. So usually it's just the pilot. And then depending on the level of emergency, we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay. If it's level 1, we have to be up in the air within 35 minutes is what we set for ourselves to be picking up that patient. Level 1s, we will bring a nurse. If it's pregnancy related, level 1, we bring an OB specialist from the hospital with us. So if it's a critical patient, we will have a nurse type person on the plane with us. They're responsible for the medical aspect. The pilot's responsible for getting the plane there. And obviously we'll help them load. We'll deal with the medical side at their instruction. And then we're responsible for getting them back to our base at WEWAC. So a nurse will be with us, and then us. We pick up the patient. So let's say a typical one is a pregnancy related. So we fly out, we'll pick up the pregnant mother, and then usually there'll be a family member or a caregiver that comes to the hospital. Again, you're days away. Yeah. So that caregiver will often sleep in the hospital with the patient, help get them their food, their needs. So it'll be the pilot, the medical staff person, the patient, and then the patient's caregiver family member. So typically it's 4 people in the airplane when we're coming back into town.
So, you're talking about a float plane. Why are you in a float plane versus, like some other sort of plane?
Yeah, the area we work has what they call the Sepik River, or the name of it's the Sepik River. It's a river that's 700 miles of zigzags through a river valley in Papua New Guinea. It's about 150 miles from where it starts at the ocean until where it gets too shallow for us to fly any further up it with rocks and stuff. Okay. So in that 150 miles, you got 700 miles of zigzaggy river, and we can land on most of that. So there's about 80 different landing sites that we will land at that serve about 120 different villages. Included in that, or there's some different lakes and pockets. So the float plane is perfect. We don't have to maintain runways. Helicopters are very expensive, usually 3 to 4 times as expensive to operate as an airplane, and the cost would be pretty prohibitive for what we do. So to be able to have a 700-mile runway and essentially land wherever we want, it just works really well for our operations.
So landing in rivers, what are some of the odd things you come across? Like, it's got to be unpredictable. These are, I think, one thing that I really noticed from the movie is that, I mean, this is remote. This is, I mean, you got like tribes. You got, I mean, National Geographic type stuff. Like people here, it's not like they have, high tech. How do they call you even?
Yeah, most of the people we serve don't have electricity. It's very rural living. They might have a solar panel hooked up to an old car battery so that they could, say, have a light at night or charge a phone. But even the medical aid outposts we serve often don't have electricity. Some of them will have to have a refrigerator for their medicines, and a lot of times they're solar-powered refrigerators. So even the medical clinics we work at often don't have electricity. But with that said, all up and down the river, they have cell towers. It'd be interesting to visit. I'm like, they got a generator running at the base of every cell tower? I don't exactly know how that works, but about 80% of the villages, or you could say the population of about 300,000 people that we serve in the CPIC, have some sort of cell coverage. So they will call us on the cell phone, we'll answer it, and we'll go out. There is pockets where they don't have cell coverage. Some of the villages have HF radios if you're into radio type stuff. Sometimes they'll have to go a half hour down the river. We'll hear stories of somebody's got to run a couple miles and climb a coconut tree because they know where they can get cell coverage. And then they'll call us from that spot. But yeah, they'll give us a shout on the cell phone and we go pick them up. Yeah, the rivers are very rural, you could say rugged. The depth of the water doesn't tend to be a problem, but it's very milky. It's very dark colored. So you can't see much below, let's say, 4 inches into the water. So one of the things we're always looking for is logs or stumps or what's floating down the river. At almost any given point, there's usually a band of debris, vegetation, stuff like that. So we have to make sure we land in a clear spot of the river. About 25% of the time, it's so dense with the forest, with the trees, we can't pull our airplane up to pick people up. So about 25% of the time, they'll actually bring a boat out to us, and we'll load the patient from their boat right onto the float of the airplane into the airplane because it's so remote, so rugged that you can't even pull the airplane up to the side. They have to bring the patient out to you in the middle of the river.
Yeah. Now, are these... they kind of have modern boats? Are they like metal boats? Are they wood boats? What are they?
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. The standard is a dugout canoe, picture 30, 40 foot long. So great big, let's say 4 foot diameter tree. They spend a lot of time digging it out. But then they put an outboard motor on the back.
No way.
Yeah, so they would get in one of these dugout canoes with an outboard motor that they maybe do 15 mile an hour. They don't exactly plane out like a boat.
Right.
And they might be 100 miles down the river in that thing for a day, and then you sleep at night. And it's too dangerous. You wouldn't want to travel down the river at night. It's pitch black. So then they're going to do that another day. So that's the standard canoe they come out to us with is great big long, 30 foot long dugout canoe with an outboard. They also do have fiberglass boats. So occasionally it'll be a fiberglass boat with an outboard motor on it. I think part of that is there's various mission organizations, non-government organizations, these medical aid outposts we pick people up from. There's about 40 medical aid outposts on the river. They're not hospitals, but they have some medicines and stuff like that can help in minor issues. A lot of those will have a boat. And picture if they got to bring somebody into town, if it's not a rush, if 4 days later they can get to town, they'll take their boat and bring it down into town. But if you've got a mom that's losing a baby and there isn't 4 days, those are the type of calls we get.
Yeah, if you got to drive a boat like that 4 days anyways, you would think it would be pretty important.
Exactly.
So I could definitely see the value there. Floatplane makes sense. So what about critters? Are there like critters there you got to worry about? Like I I don't know, is this like
You'd
Florida?
think wild,
swampland?
right? Yeah, look over your shoulder. So what's interesting is our planes are very loud. As a pilot, I never saw any animals. We land the plane and it's so loud, everything scatters.
Yeah.
There was one day we were delivering medicine way out to a place called the May River. And we landed. It was hot. It was towards the end of the day for me. There was, I don't know, 40, 50 people around, 20 kids. And a lot of times when we're delivering medicine, that's another thing we'll do. We'll stop and we'll chat with the people for a half hour, an hour. It's nice to build that relationship with them. That's part of why we're there, is to just introduce them to Jesus, tell them God loves you. So it's nice to do that. Well, this particular day, I was not in a chatting kind of mood. Yeah. So I looked around, there's a bunch of kids, and I started asking questions. Hey, do you guys swim in the river? Yeah, we do. And it was hot. I said, do you want to race? So I set up a race to swim across the river. Actually, what they ended up doing is we all swam across, and they said, on your mark, get set, go. And we swam back.
Okay.
A little bit later, after we got back, I was like, hey, are there like crocodiles or alligators in this river? And they said, oh, yeah. Oh, man. Why didn't you tell me that ahead of time? But no, the airplane chased them away. There are villages I've been in that if the airplane's shut down and it's been a while, you'll see their dogs or different birds that they might have, or pigs. Okay. But yeah, as far as wild animals, we don't see that as often because our airplane's so loud.
Makes sense. Yeah, man, it's so interesting to me. It's, back when I was a kid, my grandma had this huge collection of National Geographic stuff. And so it was always fun to look at. And frankly, I haven't thought about that in a while until I saw the movie and realized that there are still people that live like that. Like, we drive our cars and wander around and, go to the urgent care, the hospital, or just go to Meijer local store and pick up medicine and things. And we really take that for granted. And when I saw that, it just kind of reminded me that, wait a second, there's a whole nother world out there those people need help.
Yeah.
So it was super interesting to me.
Yeah. What I was struck with when we moved there is we lived in a town that had, let's say, 20,000 people, a couple hardware stores, a couple grocery stores. That town is connected to the river by a road that takes 6 hours to get down. And you can pay somebody to take you down that road in a taxi. Too dangerous to go at night. Once you get to the river, you're a couple days. So trade happens. There's a trade language that pretty much all the people, at least that we serve in Papua New Guinea, know, called Talkpisin or Pidgin.
Okay.
So these villages that are down the river, they have ability to be connected to the developed or the industrialized world, if you want to phrase it that way. But it's far distances and it's difficult. I tell people a lot of times, the people that are living there, if you're from Michigan like me, sometimes we'll go camping. And I'm not talking fifth wheel with air conditioning, because that happens too. Sure. But if you go rustic camping, you're out in the woods, you brought your food with you, we'll do it for fun. Hey, look, we're surviving, right? These people, that's kind of their life. They're 3 degrees off the equator. So food grows year round. Okay. Interesting point if you didn't know, but hurricanes don't go by the equator. They don't cross it. So there's not like a hurricane bad weather situation. So you can grow food year round. They live on the river, so there's fishing. One of the other reasons we don't see a lot of wild animals is, you could hunt for your food too, and the animals don't want to be dinner. So they'll stay away a little bit. Yeah. But so if you picture it kind of like a rustic camping, some of the villages I was in, they're very beautiful on the river. It's a beautiful country. There's a disconnect, though, between that, call it rustic lifestyle, and how would you enter the industrialized type world. Some of these villages we serve don't have schools in them yet. Some of the villages, they do have schools. And they're learning not just Pidgin, the trade language, but English is actually the national language there.
Oh, really?
So some of the kids in these areas, they're learning English, because if you want to move into some of the cities in Papua New Guinea, often you'll need to know English for that. So if you picture people that are living a lifestyle that's kind of like a camping, rustic situation, until you have a big problem, it's life for them.
Different.
They might have been to town. They've seen industrialization, but if they were to move into town, being less educated, they're not going to be able to get a good job. They're going to live in a really rough neighborhood. It's actually going to be a lot tougher life. So some of the people we work with, the families are moving into towns, but there's a generation or two or three often that will happen where it's actually a rougher life until your family gets established in a developed world. So it's this balance. So when they live out in that rustic area and you have a medical problem, well, what do? And there was nothing before Samaritan Aviation. There was nothing you could do. You just have to die or you'd have to suffer. So that's why the organization was founded. In 2000, we started flights in 2015 to bridge that gap between we don't have medical services, especially for big emergencies, so that these people that are living out there don't have to die when medical emergencies come up.
So 10 years, do you have any idea what the stats are and how many people you've helped, or maybe even just a average daily or weekly or monthly?
Yeah, and it's changed. We've been flying since 2010, so it's been 15 years we've been flying. I believe the back of my card said 3,600 flights. I have been with Samaritan basically since 2022.
Okay.
So the last 3 years, those last 3 years we're averaging anywhere from 150 of these life flights, so medical emergency type flights, to, I think I heard last year it was over 370. So that's, averaging it out more than one a day.
Yeah.
And the numbers keep going up. Partially the population's going up. Partially we have more planes. We have more people there to be able to do these flights. So in a geographic area that we serve about 300,000 people, if I do really rough math, this is really rough math, we have served about 3,000 people, 2,500. You do some funny math there and you're going, that's almost 1% of the population that we've helped with these medical flights. It's probably closer to 0.5%, but when you're talking pregnancy, that's 2 people. Your percentages go up. So, in your community, if you were to look around and say, has 1 out of every 100 people been in the ambulance? Well, where we serve, it's that high of number. So the people are very, very appreciative that we're there, that we're helping them of the work we do.
That's great. So you said when you're flying there, sometimes you have some time. Are there non-emergency flights or just hey, getting the awareness out to the communities that, hey, look, we're here?
Yeah. I'm going to come right back to that. Our new base that we're starting on the south coast of the island, those flights, we got a house, we got a dock, we're trying to get that established. A lot of the flights down there are less emergency. It's going to be medicine delivery. It's actually going to be medical exploration. Some of these villages have not seen a nurse for 10 years. Wow. You can imagine that, the people in the village. So those ones will be a lot less medical emergency until we get the communications line established. I don't think they have cell phones down there. So we're going to have to figure out, do we get satellite internet set up for them, something like that. Up in the north where we're at, about a third, I think is where we're at now, somewhere around there, of our flights are medicine delivery flights. So the government has a big medicine store. Okay. It's hard to get that medicine 4 days down the river. Is it going to get there? Rains often, raining on medicine. Yeah. So we bring that medicine out. So those are what I'd call a non-emergency flight, where we bring the medicine out. When we do that, usually we'll shut the plane off, unload. It might be 300 pounds, 400 pounds of medicine that we're bringing to these 8 outposts. And then we'll have a chance to talk with the people. Hey, how are you doing? What are the needs in the community? And just build relationships that way. Now, some of those flights turn into emergencies. One of the flights I was on, we delivered the medicine to a village and cell phone rang, and 30 miles down the river, there was a guy that had I'll say assault type trauma. He had a fishing spear sticking out of his face.
Oh my. So
we left what was just a routine medical delivery flight and pulled up into another community where a guy had a fishing spear that was kind of impaled in his face. And they had to surgically remove it, because picture about 12 kind of individual barbs that you'd stab a fish with in the river. But all those barbs were stuck into his bones and face and skull. So we brought him back to the hospital. So that was a tough one. That guy's name was Donovan. And, part of what we do there is to introduce people to Jesus, but also, just be a gospel light to him. Donovan had got drunk and threw the Spirit his dad. When you're drunk, you're not the best at stuff, right? I don't fly the plane drunk. Well, I don't get drunk to begin with.
Right.
But he missed. His dad threw it back, and he didn't miss. So they went to the hospital. When I was at the hospital, I visited Donovan over the next couple days, and he pretty much was healed up. I'm not sure one of his eyes totally works anymore because how that went down. But I was able to talk to Donovan, A, about getting drunk, but B, hey, Donovan, are you going to be able to forgive your dad for spearing you in the face? And we talked about what forgiveness looks like and how we can forgive people because Christ forgave us. And Donovan said, I already forgave my dad. I know I was in the wrong, and I forgave my dad for what he did to me. So that's part of the ministry of what we do. That's what our national staff does on a daily basis is just talk through situations with the patients to be their friend, but also help them learn from some of the situations they got themselves in.
Now, you say national staff, are those nationals like local people?
Yeah. Okay. A lot of times people would say natives, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't necessarily like that word. There's 300,000 people we serve in our area. So we hire, I think there's 15 or 20, don't quote me on that for the number, people that live in our area that work for our organization. The government there is very careful to care for their people. I'll phrase it that way. So they don't want, even as missionaries, they don't want us coming in and taking the jobs. So one of the things they have is if we bring in one missionary, they want us to hire 2 national people and give them a job. So some of that is our hospital care. We hire the locals to go in and do that ministry of hospital care. Some of that is some of our base maintenance and construction type projects. We have people that help with that. We usually have a couple people at our hangar helping us fuel the planes, load the planes with medicine. When I say nationals, they're Papua New Guineans that work for Samaritan Aviation on our team to help us accomplish our mission.
Okay. Awesome. I mean, that's great too. I imagine that just helps with all of the relationships. So it's not, everything's integrated.
It is. One of the things that we do there, one of the reasons we're there is we are there to encourage the people, encourage the church. We want to see people following Jesus. And the local church is the primary driver, the primary motive of what Jesus gave us for following him. So even hiring national staff, but the people we pick up in the villages, us being there, not just saving lives, but you could say giving our stamp of approval of living a Christian lifestyle, hopefully showing that with how we live, but also encouraging other people that are doing that is a big part of what we do. So the staff at the hospital that's local that will fly out on the plane to help us, the OB people, the nurses, a lot of them are Christians already. So coming alongside them to say, your country is worth investing in, your people are worth investing in, and your local churches in these communities, they're worth investing in. Because Samaritan Aviation, we don't make money. We lose money. We're serving the people there. We can't operate without donors giving to Samaritan Aviation. Airplanes are very expensive to operate, so we need people to support the ministry we do. The staff that work with us over there, they're there serving. We're providing a service, yes, but we do not charge for that service. We don't charge for any of our flights. So everything we do is to help and be an encouragement to the people there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if somebody were to want to give, how would they do that?
Yeah, the easiest way is to just go to our website, SamaritanAviation.org.
Okay.
And there's newsletters, there's info, but right up at the top, there'll be a button that says donate.
Yeah.
And you can choose to donate to specific stuff. It takes about $250 worth of fuel for each flight we do. So if you donated $250, that covers the fuel for one flight. There are other projects going on, like the new base we're building, you can donate towards. Just general operations budgets. Airplanes are mechanical. They break down, and we got to buy parts for them. But yeah, SamaritanAviation.org.
Do you bring in, like you talked about flying out to some of these, and maybe this is a new thing that might be added or just temporary, but some other missions I've seen over the years, they'll bring in a specific doctor, go to a village, help people, just general medical care, or maybe they'll bring in a dentist or an eye doctor or somebody that kind of has a specific thing. Is that something you guys
Yeah,
do?
right around the edges. Part of it, we talked briefly about, we really need 2 to 4 more pilots right now and 2 mechanics.
Yeah.
So part of our issue right now is our staff is stretched and we don't have the capacity to do as much of that as we would like to do. For instance, we've had some eyeglasses with I'm not an eye doctor, but something you look through and it'll tell you what prescription you need.
Yeah.
That we could go out to these villages and get the people set up with basically free eyeglasses. I can't imagine living a hunter gardener lifestyle with bad eyesight. So we'd like to do more of that, but we don't have the capacity. Part of it's staffing and part of it's funding. One of the big things we do is working with the government. And when I say government, the local villages. So we do vaccine outreaches. So think like the Tdap, tuberculosis, diphtheria, polio. There are areas we serve that had polio outbreaks in the last 15 years. It's still a thing there. Kids are dying of polio. So I can't remember if it was 5 or 10 years ago, we helped get out big vaccine outreach for polio and save thousands of lives for doing a polio vaccine outreach. My wife and daughter were able to go on another of these vaccine outreaches to a village that is actually on the ocean. And then there's kind of a lake and backwater that we land on. And that village had not seen, let's say, a nurse. They hadn't had medical care for 3 years since COVID had happened. Wow. So picture any kid 3 years old or younger didn't have any vaccines for stuff like tuberculosis, which we pick up people with tuberculosis. Yeah. So that's probably the main, let's call it mission medical care we'd go out and fly on. Down on the South Base, we're going to be doing a lot more of those where we just bring in a nurse and say, hey, what are you guys dealing with? Is there a way we can help with that?
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your wife and your daughter. Now, when you were stationed there, like my wife, like she gets nervous if I'm flying on a plane. She hates to fly. I really enjoy flying. So what did your wife think of this? And how's your serving in this manner? And maybe they're serving. How's that looked?
Yeah, we have 4 kids. They were all teenagers when we went.
Okay.
So if you can imagine, we had a good life here in West Michigan. So bringing 4 teenagers with you, they understood the mission, but they weren't as excited to do it as my wife and I were. We'll put it that way. Yeah. My wife is great, Jennifer. She was excited to go. Did a great job serving there. Even just down to the hospital, to that hospital care. When my wife was learning pigeon, she would go with one of our staff members from the hospital, national staff. And one of the ways she would learn pigeon is she would go to the hospital with Betty or one of the other, and they would talk to the patients. And that was one of the ways my wife was learning, just investing in the people, hands-on care for the people. So yeah, my wife loved serving there. She had a medical issue while we were there. And it's not safe for us to be in Papua New Guinea anymore with my wife's health condition. Okay. And that's what eventually brought us back to the States, is we need to be in a place where my wife can have access to the care she needs. Yeah. So we came back to the States. So I'm no longer you'd say, missionary pilot overseas with Samaritan Aviation, but I do recruiting, pilot training, plane movements, fundraising, while I'm doing my 40-hour a week teaching job at the school that trains future pilots and mechanics to go. So yeah, my wife is great. She was heavily involved in that. She was able to go on a couple flights for like the vaccine outreaches, but generally she was the same job she did when we were in the States. She was a household engineer. Yeah. She made sure our family ran well and did a great job with that. Still does.
Holding down the fort with 4. Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially I imagine in a foreign country.
Yeah, the food prep was more difficult. The village we live in, or the town we whack, gets 3 jet planes a day.
Okay.
2-8s, and it gets ships, but it's not connected to the rest of the country by road, believe it or not. So any of the food goods that came in were either locally grown or they were more of picture dry goods that were long-term storage. So any of the fresh food we buy at markets, essentially like farmers markets in town. So a lot of the food prep was, you'd say, from scratch type food prep. So it took a long time to prep food. Some of our missionary families would, I'm not going to say complain, but they would comment about how much work it is, and how difficult it was to have good food. They've been there for years once we got there. So what was interesting is we would probably once a week do a potluck. We live on base with the rest of our staff, 6 families. So we'd do a usually weekly staff potluck meal all together. And it's some of the best food I ever had. And part of it was they have learned to cook from scratch and to cook very, very well. But it takes a tremendous amount of time. You couldn't buy tortillas. And even bread was hard to come by. We'd get a bread guy that would drive his van down our road, and you'd run out there and you'd buy your loaves of bread for the week. That's the stores often didn't have bread when we were there. But yeah, tortillas were out of the question. So my wife and daughters, usually every other week, they'd make tortillas for like fish tacos or something like that. But they would start at about noon making their tortillas so that we could have fish tacos at 6 p.m.
Wow.
So yeah, a little bit more work.
Yeah. So now along that line, that's probably, it's probably challenging to recruit people because of that. So you really want a good match. And I'm sure there's people that are excited about that. I mean, some of us are wired to do some weird things.
Yeah.
Or do some extraordinary or not ordinary things, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so, and we might even get extra joy from that.
Yeah. Hero complex like me. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of leaning there, but I'd let you say it again.
Yeah.
So what do you look for? Sorry, my voice is cracking. What do you look for when recruiting families and pilots and mechanics?
Yeah. We're looking for people that want to serve. We used to have on our application, and if you go to the website, you can click on the work with us, and it'll give you more of a full list of what it is. But right at the top was adaptability. So people that can go serve and adapt to the community they're living in, the food that's available this month, just the living arrangements of what we have. We take good care of our people. We have air conditioning in our houses, which is really nice. But yeah, it's different. So to be able to be adaptable to that, but adaptability, and then primarily a heart to serve and a heart to serve in Christ's name. We are there as missionary mechanics or missionary pilots. We want to have people see Jesus in us, that care for others that we have learned from studying who Jesus is and what he gave us in the Bible. So we're looking for solid Christians that can basically live a life of service that helps others and glorifies God at the same time. And like I said, we got a lot of roles in the pilot side. It's commercial instrument rated, eventually seaplane. Mechanic side, there's different qualifications. But if we had somebody that was on fire for the Lord, that wanted to serve others, they can take it from where they're at and go to a place like Samaritan Aviation or go to Samaritan Aviation. The school I teach at, SMAT, we have students everywhere from fresh out of high school, I just want to do something in aviation and they don't know what, to I have another student this year that's 36, I think, years old. He had a cement company. It was a similar story to what mine was. And they sold that, and he went through the mechanic school at SMAT, getting ready to graduate. Probably by the time this edits, he'll be A&P rated mechanic, and he's signed up next year to take his pilot training. And when he came, he had no idea what organization he was going to serve with. Is it going to be Papua New Guinea or Africa? Part of it is when he comes to the school, he gets introduced to a lot of amazing organizations. Now, I'm kind of partial to Samaritan Aviation.
Sure.
I really love the work we do. But there's a lot of organizations that do similar work. Most of them are doing a lot more of transporting missionaries or Bible translators. Samaritan Aviation is very unique in that we come and we help people's physical needs first. We save their life. What we found is if we save somebody's physical needs, that gives us the relational capital to talk to them about spiritual things.
Yeah.
They're very open to talk to us about God, the Bible, the purpose of life when you were this close to losing your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do think the hands and feet and serving is definitely maybe the best way to introduce that.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. Anything we missed here so far? I guess tell us about the movie, because that's kind of how I was introduced.
Yeah.
I heard you're having another viewing.
Yeah, it looks like October 23 here in Grand Rapids. We're going to show it. We did one about a month ago. Rented the biggest screen I could find, 55 foot wide. And basically, it's a 40-minute infotainment documentary. That's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
But it's a documentary that's very entertaining. A lot of aviation in it. It shows what we do firsthand. The title of it is Saman Balus. So Saman is basically like the float or the outrigger on a canoe, is what they call them there in Pidgin. And Balus is the word for bird or airplane. So the name of the movie, Saman Balus, is literally float plane.
Okay.
On my shirt, that's what we're known as in Papua New Guinea and Pidgin. They won't say Samaritan Aviation if they're speaking Pidgin. They'll say, oh, Saman Balus.
Yeah.
So that's what we named the movie after. It's going to be at Celebration Cinema. And usually we show it free of charge, and then tell people, hey, our operations don't happen without donors. And after they see the movie and see what we do, a lot of people are motivated to say, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to do more. So yeah, hopefully October 23, and we'll provide a link to this, hopefully, so you can go sign up for that.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description or show notes. And I saw the movie. It was great. It was not only entertaining, but great storytelling, and really kind of shine a light on what they do, which was, after you see that, it's super valuable. And I was one of those people that felt led to give. So it was good, very helpful. I'd encourage you to go see it.
Yeah. One of the stories it tells in that movie is the Condon family, Matt and Janine. He was a police detective. I believe it was the San Diego Police Department. So another story of one of our people. Had a life, had a career, have a heart to serve the Lord. So he got his aviation training over a couple of years and joined Samaritan Aviation. So he's one of our pilots over there now.
Awesome. Do you find that, like, first responders, police, military, is there a particular background, or is it a pretty broad group of people that end up serving there?
Yeah, pretty broad background. So out of the staff over there, our chief pilot was actually flying float planes in Alaska with his wife for a couple thousand hours, a couple of years. So they are very float plane experts. The next pilot in line was a corporate pilot. So he was flying around King Airs, and I believe the place he was flying for has a jet now and different Cirrus aircraft. So he had kind of like what I would call a pilot's dream job. The organization he flew for owned multiple planes. They owned medical buildings throughout a couple states.
Gotcha.
Had this aviation dream job, but heard about Samaritan Aviation and what we do and said, man, that's an amazing way to use my life. I was a heating and cooling guy.
Yeah.
There's not a cookie cutter who fits well with Samaritan Aviation.
Yeah. So in your time there, were there any like flights that particularly, or rescue missions that stood out to you?
Yeah, one in particular, I picked up a boy. I think he was about 10, 12 years old, and he had fallen out of a tree. They told me 20 or 30 foot, which sounds quite high, but he broke both bones below his knee. And I believe him because there was a hole in his leg where one of them had come sticking out of it. I got to be careful. I can tell you don't like some of these stories. I
just shiver, like, just thinking about it.
So we went to pick him up. It was one of those sites where I can't make it to shore in the boat. So he was laying on a cot type thing in the bottom of a boat. They pulled the boat up next to ours, and we had to kind of triage. We had to move him from the mat he was on to the stretcher in the plane. And the amount of pain he was in, just to move him a foot to get him on our stretcher, it hurt. I did pretty well with my flights, picking up everything from people that fell into fires to attacked by wild pigs. But that kid was a tough one because just the amount of pain he was in to move him over onto our stretcher. Once we got him on the stretcher, we put him in the plane and flew him back into town and where he could get the care. When we get back into town, we got to take him out of the plane, put him in our ambulance, which is a Toyota Land Cruiser with no seats in the back.
Oh my!
So when you use the word ambulance, it's about 3 miles or so, maybe 2 miles from our hangar to the hospital.
Okay.
Slowest I've ever drove through town. Every bump you hit, and the roads have some potholes. You could hear him just, I'm gonna use the word grimacing, in the back, just, well, that boy would have been 8 hours. He would have been about 4 hours on the river. Imagine hitting waves.
Oh yeah.
And then another 6 hours, 4 hours in a car. And I took 5 minutes to go 2 miles. Just the pain he was in. When I was 12 years old, I broke my femur, most pain I've ever been in my life. So I really could feel for this boy that basically we turned what would have been an 8-hour excruciating journey, and we would have been, shock and stuff entering the picture just from the pain, to a 45-minute flight, 5-minute car ride. So that's one of the flights I remember, both as being hard, but also the suffering that we alleviated by being able to be there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, the thing with a compound fracture too, run along the river, like you just don't. I mean, the risk of infection is so much higher.
Yeah.
Like I just can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what we do day after day. About 30% of our flights are that type of, trauma related. Snake bites, there's poisonous snakes that you die within 8 hours. So we pick up snake bite victims that wouldn't make it to the hospital. And then you get the pregnancy, but then you get diseases too. So malaria, tuberculosis. There's quite a variety of ways that we help people.
I think something that came up when I was thinking about prep for this is legacy. And like as we get later in life, I guess you are closer to my age. I thought you were younger.
I'm over the hill.
But we start thinking about that. And I think like the pilot that, went from flying corporate jets to serving in this arena. What does that mean to you? Like what's next for you?
Yeah. I'm teaching at the Missionary school, trying to build people that are willing to do work like this. They go to a lot of orgs, not just ours. But part of my job is also recruiting for Samaritan Aviation. I talk to a lot of people that are interested in mechanicking for us, flying for us. And some of those people want a job that's an adventure. Flying planes in Papua New Guinea sounds like an adventure. Some of them do truly want to help, but maybe they don't have the right training yet, or they're not willing to put in the minimum 3 years, because you got to learn a language, you've got to learn our ministry. We're looking for long-term commitments. We say minimum 3 years, but we're looking for people that are 5 years, 10 years that want to serve with us. So in my recruiting position at Samaritan Aviation, there are people I come across that have like really nice lives, families, and you would say, why in the world would you want to uproot your family and move over there? And it's just a legacy of service. My kids saw what we did, what my wife was willing to do, and they see a life that is served with others in mind instead of served with our own self in mind. It's very much focused on others. So some of the people that I talk with recruiting, there are even days where I'm like, no, I don't know if you want to do this. Not that it's a bad life, but because there's hard parts about it. What is very encouraging is when I look at our staff that's there and how they're using their lives. And back to at Samaritan Aviation, we try very hard to make sure that they're thriving there. They're doing well. But when you look at how they use their lives, I say these are the most amazing people in the world. I get choked up just kind of thinking about it. Luke and Nick and Matt and Anton and Josh and all their families. What an amazing way to use your life. They could live here in the States, a lot cushier life. They could be building wealth, and you could even be building legacy here, building into their kids here. But the way they're doing it in Papua New Guinea is just astounding. So for people that are interested in working with us, we say, yeah, there's hard parts about it, but what you're building for your life, for your kids' life, for the people of Papua New Guinea, it matters not just here, but for eternity. As Christians, we believe that life here on earth is important. It's important how we live. But we also believe that our life here is just a tiny piece of what eternity we're going to spend forever. So for people that want to work with Samaritan Aviation, they're investing in eternity, not just their lives, not just their kids' lives, but the eternity of the lives of the people they're serving in Papua New Guinea.
Hey, just want to say thanks for talking with us. I know you said you wear a lot of hats. You're a busy guy. I forgot where we're going there.
Well, I'll tell you where we're going. We're going to go flying. I was just at the air show last week in Oshkosh, largest air show in the world. And I actually got to fly our airplane in the air show for awareness. So that was kind of fun. And I'm in the pre-air show meeting with the F-35 guys and the F-22 guys, actually gals on that one. And they got these shirts that say F-22 demonstration team. So I'm in the process of lobbying my boss to give me a new title, because I can be recruiter and fundraiser and trainer. But my new title, I'm trying this out, is Samaritan Aviation Demonstration Team Pilot. So part of that is not just demonstrating how our airplane works, but also demonstrating what Samaritan does. So in that line of thought, I think we should go demonstrate our actual airplane to you and the viewers and show them what Samaritan does and some of the tools we use.
I say let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's go. Don't go anywhere. From the studio to the skies, we are heading to Sparta Airport with Case. He'll give us a tour of his float plane, take off and land on the water at Hess Lake. We'll have lunch at Smugglers on the North Shore. Hey Case, how you doing?
Good, Eldon. Welcome to Sparta Airport. You ready for a demonstration of what our equipment can do?
I'm ready. And who's this lovely
Jennifer.
helper here? Jennifer?
Yes, I'm his wife.
Lovely bride, life navigator.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, we're heading out to the lake today to give you a little water demonstration, show you what we do. And one of the hardest things our pilots deal with is actually docking the plane and securing it so it's safe. So Jen's got some experience with that, so we're bringing her with to help us manage the aircraft while we're out.
And manage you a little bit, maybe keep you in line.
Well, yeah, that too.
So is this the official attire for like a Samaritan Aviation pilot?
Yeah, it is. We fly in Papua New Guinea where it's very hot, and we're jumping on and off the plane into the muddy river, sandy riverbank. So these sandals are so when you get rocks under, your feet, you can wash them off nice. If I wore shoes like you, it'd be a mess all day. And it's hot there, so the nice fishing shirt keeps us cool. So yeah, most pilots, they got the nice white shirt with the bars. But this is it. This is official attire of Samaritan Aviation pilots.
More my style. Love it.
Yeah.
Let's check it out.
Sounds good. But I got it set up like we have in Papua New Guinea typically. So we got the 4 seats. One of them's the stretcher. So it's a ways up there.
Yes.
I
was just thinking that.
When we load a patient, if we're actually loading a patient on the stretcher, we will move the front seats all the way forward and these back 2 come out. The stretch will be on the ground with the patient. And it takes about 4 people to lift them up. We can just squeeze them in, get them in place.
It's not that big a place, especially if somebody's injured.
Correct.
And they're hurting. I imagine it's got a little tight, and then you're floating on the water.
Exactly. Coming out is almost harder than in because we're so high. Once the water depth is about here, it's a little bit easier. But then again, when you're dealing with a canoe, not always the best. But
very cool.
We manage.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of hop up. Can I hop in?
Sure, go for it. Yeah. We'll say you just have malaria today.
Just malaria, yeah.
Maybe it was a 4-day journey to the hospital and you weren't going to make it. So there we go.
Yeah. Should I go into acting here? Is this good? Like, come on.
Have to stick them to make it more realistic. Amphib 206 Papa Tango, ramp taxi 7, Sparta. One of the things we have is a checklist so that I don't have to be doing one down on my lap. It's all right up where I can see. So that's somewhat unique to Missions Aviation, but specifically us, this is our kind of custom checklist we use.
Nice to be able to have it convenient where you can, especially when you're in a hurry on the
Exactly.
fly.
Well, and on the water where there's so many things we got to be paying attention to, that having it up where we can visually see it. All right, so it'll basically be like a wheelie. So I'm basically going to wheelie all the way down the runway until it flies, and then once it flies, I'll just manage what I got to manage. There's our wheelie.
It'll fly when it wants. Right there. Head to the lake. So in Papua New Guinea, we have similar setup where we have a GPS.
Yep.
We'll carry a GPS. That's just an iPad, basically Velcroed to it. So that it doesn't matter whose iPad or cell phone, they bring it with them. So they'll do their flight plan on the ground back home. And then we usually also have another cell phone with GPS. So even though the missionary school, we teach people how to fly looking outside and on paper charts. We got GPS.
Yeah, I like having redundancy.
Yeah.
Do you have any unique obstacles in Papua New Guinea?
So right along the coast, there's I don't know if you call it a mountain range, but a hill line that goes up from sea level up to 2,000 foot, right around there. There's a little pass through it that's about 300 foot lower, kind of a ravine. So we will get days where the clouds are sitting right at the top of those mountains. And we'll have to fly through that little pass. So the clouds might only be a couple hundred foot above us.
Okay.
If that's not high enough, or if there's legal days for that, sometimes we'll fly all the way down the ocean about 40 miles and then come back up the river. So the beauty of a float plane is if you're above the river, if you ever had an engine failure, you just land on the river.
Right.
So it's actually, that piece of it is quite safe compared to a lot of other missionary aviation where they're over jungles. Now that said, the first 20 minutes of almost every flight, for us, we go up over that range, and it's pretty much jungles and trees, kind of like what you're seeing out your window, except no roads. So if our engine died in the first, let's say 15 minutes, it wouldn't be good.
Well, you're at a pretty low elevation anyway. How long would it take to coast down from 2,000?
Yeah, so for every 1,000 foot you are up, this plane will glide about a mile.
Oh, wow.
So we'll actually stop at about 1,300 foot above the ground here. So we'd only have about a mile.
Yeah.
That's one reason a lot of pilots will fly higher.
Right.
We tend to have a cloud kind of base at about 2,500 foot off the ground over there, somewhere in that range, maybe 3,000, depending on the day. So what happens is on a 1 hour flight, it takes so long to climb above the clouds that it's not worth it, because then you got to find a hole to get back down. So a lot of times over in Papua New Guinea, we'll fly at about 1,500 foot above the ground. So it's lower, just because by the time you get up, now you're coming right back down anyway. So a little more efficient that way.
So is most of your navigation on flying? Like if you're coming into a new area, do you do a fly around or a couple passes, or how do you decide on where to land?
Yeah, so there's about 80 different landing sites we land at. So part of it is every new pilot is going to fly with another pilot and get familiar with the area before they let you into new ones. Make sure I'm managing here. But other than that, we have most of them keyed into our GPS overseas. So we can fly to a point we pick out on the GPS. Now, as far as looking down below us, yeah, we'll look out the window. Every landing we do, we fly around once, make sure there's nothing in the water. The old joke on most of our videos is make sure there's no crocodiles.
Yeah.
I guess Martin saw one before.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, all my flying the airplane is so loud that I never saw a crocodile. But there are logs, floating debris, canoes, people fishing, fishermen's nets, all that kind of stuff.
So a fly around probably kind of alerts everybody too if they're in
Exactly.
the area that, hey, something might be coming in.
Yep, exactly. And we have a standard operating procedure. It's a book or a booklet, I guess you'd say, we use. And in that booklet, it has our procedures that all the pilots follow. So there is a lot of, you've got to figure it out as you go, but there's also a lot of procedures as far as you're going to do a pattern, you're going to fly these speeds. So it's a good mix of standard operating procedures and, okay, how are we going to get down on this body of water?
Yeah.
So for instance, this is Hess Lake we're coming up to already. So I know the wind is from roughly the north. Airplane down below us down there. Roughly the northeast. So we're going to want to be going kind of east, but we're going to go fly over it and see if anybody's down there. Get a good look at it before we commit to landing.
What are some of the basics you got to look at when you're going to make that land?
Well, around here, towers. We're double checking where the towers are at. We got a tower just past the lake. That's more like power lines. But some of the stuff, we do have towers here, and in Michigan, I've got them on my screens. So sometimes it's just making sure the towers are where they're supposed to be. Is that a fair way to put it? And then also, checking for boats around here. We got a couple boats out in the lake. So we're going to be looking for boats, waves, shallow spots.
632 for envoy 3843 on guard.
A big part of it is making sure where we got to actually dock. So in our instance, I know we're straight ahead on this side of the lake. Sometimes on the river, we might have to land here and then what we call step taxi for a mile across the water to get to where we actually have our patient pickup at.
Yeah.
So it's all that kind of figuring, where am I going to land? How's the wind? Where do I tie this up? Are people there?
So all of your locations are predetermined in terms of, hey, you've been there before.
Somebody from Samaritan has, and usually even for our pilots, they've been there once before. So we're going to act like we're going to land. We're going to kind of go down, just check out the water, make sure everything looks good. It kind of gives everybody on the ground an idea of what we're doing. Then we'll climb back up. So after we climb back up, we will come back around and basically make it look pretty much the same as what we just did. .5 foot off the water, we'll just pull the nose up just a little bit. Sometimes a little bit of power to slow it down. There we go. Oh, sorry about that rough landing.
Oh, jeez. Barely felt it.
All right. So nice. I would say everybody's getting hungry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't we go get some food?
There was 2 guys in the boat that were all cut up pretty bad. One guy was his leg, and the other guy had a puncture wound in his chest, the back of his arm. And anyway, I guess there was a father in his garden that was gardening, and he got attacked by the wild boar. From what we're asking him, they figured probably 300 pounds, so pretty big.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So the sons went in to try to save their dad.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the guys that they brought to us. So the dad passed away. The sons basically had loss of blood, and they were over a day away from the hospital. So they actually left me behind in that village because we were trying to figure out, who do we bring in? We don't have room for everybody. Yeah. We were going to leave the guy behind that had a puncture wound in his chest and his arm, but we unwrapped his arm and it was bad. Mm-hmm. So I told the guy that was with me, I said, well, why don't you leave me behind in the village? And if I got to spend the night or figure out how to get back, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm not bleeding to death.
Yeah.
So that was a wild one. You don't mess with wild pigs. So they'll grow their own pigs. And I would say that's probably the party meat of choice. If you're going to throw a big party for the community, they're going to do like a wild pig.
Yeah.
But chicken. And I'm trying to remember in the villages, do they have chickens in the ones we were in? I think they'll have chickens out there. We could buy chicken at the store in town. So that was probably the meat of choice. But a lot of fish. So we're on the ocean.
Yeah.
So a lot of different kinds of fish. On the river, there's a lot of, I'd call them panfish. So bluegill size around here, totally different varieties. Yeah. Because one of them has teeth. They look like our molars. All in front. It's the weirdest look.
Sheep's head, they're like that.
Similar, yeah.
They have almost like a perch siding, looking siding.
Yep.
They're usually. Yeah, human teeth, they're creepy.
Yeah, they're a little weird, but those fish will actually eat the roots that are connecting kind of this big lily pad-ish layer of vegetation in the river. And they'll eat all the roots, and then those big pieces of vegetation will go floating down the river, and that's one of the things we have to dodge.
Interesting.
Of all things. But so there's a lot of different fish. In the CPIC where we call it the CPIC Happy Meal. It's kind of the food of choice. Like if we go to the hospital to a patient we brought in, we say, hey, do you want us to pick up food from the market? Because the hospital supplies food from a commissary, but it might be just rice and maybe there's a protein. And if you bring them a bowl to the commissary, they'll put food in the bowl at certain times of day.
Okay.
So like our patients that are stuck in bed, their caregiver goes, but it's food. So we'll ask, hey, is there anything you want us to get from the market? Because they got fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And they'll always want a CPIC Happy Meal, which is, they call it sock. So there's I believe the sago palm. So sago palm, and they process it. So there's kind of a white meaty thing inside the tree.
Okay.
But they scrape or grind it out. And the closest I could explain is think like grinding out the inside of a coconut.
Okay.
So similar idea. It goes through a certain process, and then they put it in a pan, and it's almost like boiling it down in the same way you'd boil down maple syrup.
Okay.
But so it comes out as like a pancake. So it's a pancakey.
I'd say it's more tapioca consistency though.
Well, if you had one tapioca the size of a pancake, and then it dries out a little bit.
Yeah.
So you got this pancakey material, and then they'll have smoked fish, and then a sprig of onion.
Okay.
And that's the CPIC Happy Meal. Sock, a sprig of onion, and some smoked fish. And their smoked fish is typically these panfish size things. They got different size, but most houses, don't have electricity, but off the back side, they'll have an elevated, let me use the word grill, but a place you put wood on that cooks under a grate.
Yeah.
And they'll put pans on that, they'll cook. So that smoke will go up 3 to 5 foot, and then it'll kind of go out their roof out into the jungle or whatnot. So about 3 foot up, they'll have it lined with all the fish they caught, just smoking. So they smoke all day long while the fire's going, and then at night they'll pull them in so animals don't get them or whatever. Yeah. And then the next day, so it'll be like days or weeks that these things are on the smoke.
Yeah.
So it's pretty smoked.
Yeah.
And
makes you happy.
I ate it. I went down to the market when we'd go to the market, and I would get the CPIC Happy Meal just for the fun of it. I actually didn't eat the onion. I don't like onion that much. Yeah, go figure,
gotcha.
right? It was
like
the clean green onion. But so I'd get the sack and smoked fish, and I'd be eating it while I'm at market or walking back to our house. And yeah, they got the biggest kick out of it because over there they'll call me white-skinned because there's not as many Caucasian people.
Yeah.
So we're white skins over there. So if they saw a white skin eating a CPIC Happy Meal, and then they'd call out, "Oh, man below CPIC," which is a man that belongs to the CPIC.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, "You're eating our food."
Yeah.
So they got a big kick out of me eating kind of their staple.
Yeah.
And it was good. It wasn't. My kids didn't like it. It wasn't anything where they're like, when other friends would be like, "What did you eat over there?" Nobody would ever say, "Oh, the CPIC Happy Meal, smoked fish and sock." But it was a thing. What were the good foods, babe? We had, I think some of the best foods were the pineapple. The fresh local pineapple was unlike anything you can get here.
They're smaller?
They ranged in sizes. The big ones were actually more money than you pay here.
Yeah.
The American dollar doesn't transfer well into Papua New Guinea. It's this weird kind of... So even though an average laborer, if I can say, I don't know if they have a minimum wage, but that kind of idea, job that might be minimum wage around here, I think was, don't quote me, but let's say $1, $1.50, $2 an hour, something like that. Well, a pineapple was $3. So you're talking significant money.
Yeah.
Part of it was people would bring them out from their village, and they're carrying it down to the market. They're sitting all day to sell 10 pineapples or something.
And it's a tree you can't really probably get.
Well, they got them around, but they do take a couple of years. So they're expensive. So like locally, most of the locals wouldn't, I want to call it buy pineapples.
Yeah.
They would grow their own if they want one. But those were a treat.
Those take a long time to grow.
They take a long time to grow, but part of it is like when we buy bananas here in America, my understanding is they picked them when they were green.
Yeah.
They ship them. They might even do something chemically, but they ripen and you eat it once it's ripe here. Well, buying bananas and pineapple there, they picked it ripe. So it's just the flavors, you can't even compare it. But because they're so expensive, even for us missionaries that were there that you'd say had a good income, if I can phrase it that way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't cut them like you cut pineapples here because there's so much waste.
Oh,
so
sure.
you would spend 45 minutes
It took a little bit of time.
cutting the pineapple. And if you look at a pineapple, it's actually individual seeds that spiral them. They
Yeah.
kind of spiral up. So they actually go through and in the spirals cut out the
little
pokies.
squares or whatever.
Well, the
whatever
squares
the-
would stay in, but the pokey part at the end of the seed.
Oh.
So you'd be left with, if you ever go to a super fancy restaurant or a cruise or something like that, they'll do them the same way. It's this fancy spiral cut pineapple.
Yep, little grooves cut out of them.
Okay.
And yeah, that's probably the most delicious food we had when we were there. And they have many variety of mangoes.
Mango was, that was special, and so was papaya. The kids didn't love papaya. There's 2 different varieties of papaya, but I like that.
Yeah, the papaya was good. It was a little bit mushy, almost like eating a watermelon.
Okay.
Oh, they had watermelon in season too. That was fun.
Those were really expensive.
They were really expensive, yeah.
Well, comparatively.
Yeah.
Were they $10? $10 for a watermelon? Well, you imagine
Yeah,
somebody's carrying them in a bag miles
man.
to the market to sell. So, I mean, most of them aren't getting trucked in.
Right.
So,
It was a very special day to have lettuce, like green romaine.
Okay.
And avocados would be a great thing.
they had a lot of greens, but
Yeah.
a lot of the locals, a lot of the greens they would eat would be like pumpkin leaves and I'd call it not what we would expect high quality greens.
Yeah.
The texture, there were some issues. So,
But they were, when we boiled them in coconut milk and garlic, that was really good. That was a typical way to make them.
Okay.
So, that was good.
now admittedly, we lived in town and there was a really nice restaurant. I would say 4-star, not quite 5, and you could get a burger and fries, and the burger was big enough for 2 people for I think $15 US.
Oh, wow.
So for basically $7.50 is a burger and fry. So it's not something you do every day. Because
Sure.
even on our missionary budget, we can't really buy $15 burgers every day.
Yeah.
But we would go get those on like a Sunday afternoon, and that restaurant had a little pool, so you could get a burger, swim in their pool for a treat. So all the way from local food to there was some really good fresh stuff, pineapples, to living in town. That restaurant would have menu specials. I think they had was it a chef from Indonesia, is what it was. So they had what they called chili prawns, which are kind of like a shrimp. And some of the best food I've had was there. Now, part of it might be your expectations are different, right?
It's like, you're the difference in.
Yeah, I'm CPIC Happy Meal on Tuesday, and I take my wife out on a date once a month to the restaurant, and you're like, oh, this is so good. So yeah, when people are like, what did you eat there? You say, well, what did we eat when we're eating out in the village or like the locals?
Yeah.
Or what did we eat as missionaries when I take my wife on a date?
But one of our kids' favorite meals was pork tacos, so you can find ground pork there.
Okay.
So we would, do seasonings with the meat,
Yeah.
and then green peppers, pineapple was in with it, and I'm trying to think what else we used to put in it. Maybe a little bit of onion, and then we made our tortillas because you can't get tortillas there. So that was like one of my kids' favorite meals to be able to have that was pork and pineapple tacos.
Tortillas made with love.
It was a labor of love.
Yeah, it took you guys about 4 hours to make those things, I think.
It was a special night for that.
So did you have a machine to grind it, or did you hand grind the stuff?
We'd buy flour.
Yep,
you
could
could
get
get flour.
Yeah.
Yep, flour was fine to get there.
The dairy products were the hard because refrigeration
Yeah.
So we
kind
did
of.
like cartons of milk. So you wouldn't
Gotcha.
like, just go drink straight milk. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the high.
So or dried milk and
Not dried. It was the box milk. I think in America, the brand you'll see is
super
Gossamer.
pasteurized or something.
Yep, super high temp pasteurized.
Yeah.
So it's shelf stable. So we would, and it wasn't always available when we were there.
Yeah, so
There
you'd
would be
stock
times where you couldn't find milk in town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you'd almost feel bad, but then kind of not really. But when it came in town, we'd buy like 4 gallons.
They'll buy more the next time.
Yeah.
Like they'll order more next time,
yeah.
right?
So, and cheese was hard to come by the first couple months we were there. So we were there just after COVID. And during COVID, a lot of the shipments of food products was tough. So our missionary friends, they didn't have very much cheese. And so we always hear the stories of cheese is so hard to buy, cheese is so hard to buy.
Oh, yeah.
So every time we saw it in the store, we bought it.
Put it in the freezer.
I think when we left, we probably had 10 pounds of cheese in the freezer because we were all worried that you couldn't buy cheese.
Oh, that's funny.
But it became available again.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah, cheese on the tacos. That's what it was.
cheese on the tacos, yeah.
We did a cruise down to, and we were in Roatan, Honduras, and it's an island. And our tour guide for the day, we had booked a cruise for some, like a missionary company, like a guy had a church, and he would book cruises, day trips.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot cheaper than on the cruise, and they had people in it that supported the mission there, their church. And we didn't know, we had the guy for the whole day. Like we had booked these things, but he was pretty much our driver. Anything we wanted to do, he did. And he's local, grew up there, and it was awesome. But he said during COVID, like they had all the cruise ships stopped, everything stopped. So they didn't get hardly anything. Nobody could make money. So, and they live in multi-generational family, or you'll have like your brothers, they have to share houses in order to stay there. Like I think the government, so they can't sell it to other people.
Yeah.
Like as long as you have more than 2 families, or at least 2 families there, you can keep your house, kind of, something like that. And it very little infrastructure in most island. Some of it was developed a little bit, but he's like, I fished every day for food. Like our family ate a lot of fish,
Yeah.
so he's just surf fishing, eating every day from that. It's just an interesting to think about. You know.
Yeah.
There's a tuna packing plant in town by us.
Okay.
So commercial fishing boats would come in with their catch of tuna, and they'd get processed at the plant, is my understanding. But every once in a while, somebody'd be standing on the side of the road holding the tuna up, and it was hard to tell. Like, did you
How
guys
fresh?
catch that, or was
Yeah.
we heard stories of they would go out to the big boat, and the ones that were too small, they could buy them off them, and then they'd come sell them secondhand to us.
Gotcha.
So we did twice where we bought tuna off the side of the road
Yeah.
and made some blackened ahi. Is it ahi tuna? Blackened ahi tuna, where you just sear it for like 8 seconds on a side.
Yeah.
And Jen became a really good cook that way, made up all the seasoning. That was some
Nice.
really good tuna we had. But there was
Yeah, we
always
found
that,
sesame seeds.
The
Yeah.
question about,
there's always that question about, is it good? I had to research once because the one I bought was nice and ice cold. And the kid didn't have a cooler. And I'm trying to figure out, now I know when you fish for tuna, they're out of the deep, but I think by the time you pull it up through all the water,
yeah, you're pretty.
so
and
they
get
had it
to
in,
shore.
yeah, they had it in ice somewhere, but when you were asking the kid about it, oh,
Steal them off the
my
boat.
dad just caught this. It was like, really? Why is it cold?
They probably, a couple guys pitching a few off the boat on the way in, or the canoes come grab them, and
Hard to tell. Hard to
I could
tell.
see a few ideas. Yeah.
We don't tell the people we'll pay for them to get back, but we don't fly them back to their village typically, unless there's a medical reason that it's got to happen. We'll let them take the slow boat back home. Part of that was earlier on, they had some people, not everybody, but they had some people that would be taking advantage of the system. You know, they weren't that sick when we picked them up, but it's a free ride into town and a free ride back. So once it's not a free ride back, now that cuts down on the not so sick calls. So that's one good way they manage. You know, anytime you're starting a new organization that's doing stuff to help people for free, I would say it's not the rule for sure of people that were taking advantage of it, but there's always somebody, right? So Yeah, so if they come to our base and ask for help for their fare back, because usually you got to pay somebody to take you in a car to the river, and then you're going to pay one or two or three boat people to bring you the next leg up the river. A lot of times Samaritan will pay for that, but we'll sit down and have a meeting with them and say, what's the need and why? Did you ask family if they'd help? Because you can imagine if you're picking up on average a person a day or more, just the expense of sending people back down the river on top of the aviation and everything else. So yeah, that's one of the things is getting them back out. That time I was left behind in the village, I thought it was kind of unique or fun to be out in the village, and there's about 20, 30 guys that were kind of hanging out, just sitting talking with me. But as you're getting to the bottom of it in the story, they're trying to be good hosts, but at the same time, one of their village people had just died from the pig bite. And the two boys, they don't know if they're going to make it. So that was a little surreal, trying to figure out, do you be your normal happy-go-lucky case? Or, it's a borderline kind of time of mourning for the community. So some interesting lines you got to figure out how to walk. That was actually one of the more interesting, even missions settings one. They had a family that was, I think, Muslim, like Indonesian Muslim, move in outskirts of their village. They didn't really interact with them much. So I got to kind of explain to them what Muslims believe, because I know a bit more about that. We've studied it at church and stuff. And I got to explain to them that Muslims don't believe that Jesus is God. They'll say he's a good teacher, but he wasn't God. And they don't even think that Jesus died on the cross. There's this thing, but surely he didn't die to pay for your sins and my sins. He didn't do anything that makes us right with God. So I was able to share with this community a little bit what Muslims typically believe, but also compare that with the gospel, that Jesus is God, that he came and lived a perfect life, and then he died not because he deserved it, but he took our place on the cross. So that was an interesting setting while I was waiting for the plane to come pick me back up, to kind of do more what you'd picture a missionary doing, is just sharing the gospel in a really clear way.
In Takisa.
In Pidgin, yeah. Was that Pidgin that time too, I think. Yeah. Which is tricky when it's a new language for you, trying to make sure you share something clearly.
Yeah, I could imagine some misunderstandings.
Yep. So
everybody gets upset all of a sudden. Yeah. You're like, what?
Yeah, I used the phrase "talking me again" a lot, which is, say that to me again. Talking me again? Me no sabe. I don't understand that.
That does. It sounds like it's got a little bit of Spanish to it, or Latin.
So you'd say Latin based. It's a kind of English, Latin, Germanic base. A lot of Dutch in there as well. So most of the words have that Latin English root to them. So like your head is a het. So het blow me, it's het belong to me. So sometimes they'll say blow, or sometimes they'll just say belong. And it sounds like belongs. So a lot of the words have that root to where that once you know the language, it actually kind of makes sense what words you're saying.
Yeah.
Me is like I, like me.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Just you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you is you.
Yeah,
Why
you
you?
is you.
You all right?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Or me all right.
So are you all right? I'm all right. So, yeah. So it's a simpler language to learn, and that's kind of the point. It's a trade language. There's 800 languages in Papua New Guinea.
Oh, wow.
Especially once you get up in the mountains where they're very isolated from each other. So Pidgin or Tokpisin is the trade language that we say everybody knows. If you're up in the mountains where they're very isolated, it sounds like maybe the kids and people don't know the Pidgin as much, because like you're not trading with anybody. You're stuck in your village. There's nowhere to go. But on the river system where we worked, there's the river. There's trade that goes back and forth. People can travel, so they all learn Pidgin. There's not a lot of words. Let me rephrase that. There's less words in Pidgin than English. So to explain something well, a lot of times it'll take more words. It takes longer, because you're actually going to describe what's going on instead of just use a word or two to say what's
Makes
going on.
sense. Yeah.
So what's fun is when you read the Bible in Pidgin, at least for me, is it's almost like reading a commentary because it's saying the same thing, but it takes more small words to do it. And sometimes that pulls the meaning out of it a little bit more. So if I'm reading the Bible, ESV is kind of my standard go-to right now. If I'm reading an ESV and I want to be like, I wonder what another language says, or another, like, instead of going to NIV or KJV, a lot of times I'll flip over to Pidgin and read it in Pidgin and go, oh, yeah.
It's clear that flying for Samaritan Aviation isn't just about the planes. It's about people. It's about saving lives and saving souls.
As I like to say, and my wife doesn't, she to death one more time.
Love it.
If you'd like to support their mission or know another pilot with a story worth telling, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because these are the stories that lift us all.
Papua New Guinea is really the final frontier. It is very remote.
We're going into a place where people are used to dying, and we're going to change that.
Whenever they hear the sound of the plane, they hear hope.
They're risking their lives for these people they don't know out in the middle of nowhere because they believe it's important for them to hear about Jesus.